I really enjoy seeing what people feel passionate about and then seeing them become successful at that and grow ecosystems and communities and all that good stuff. I spent the next 13 years in marketing, working for huge companies, small companies, advising. I built 4 companies of my own over time. And on the side of all of that, I was really into energetics and yoga, meditation. I became a Reiki energy healer. I 10x'd my energy healing practice so much so that I was like, wait, I don't want to be a full-time energy healer. I need to actually close this down. I was just doing it for fun. But that showed me that my marketing knowledge could actually help people grow businesses that weren't in technology or consumer packaged goods.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Round 2 podcast. I am your host, Nikki Corbett, and I am really excited to have my guest here with me today, Samantha Fackler. She is a business coach, podcast host, marketing guru, something along those lines. Is that right?
That's pretty close. Yeah.
Pretty close,
thanks.
right? All right.
Multi-hyphenate.
Yeah, there we go. That's what we love. That's what everybody is these days.
I think that's who everyone is deep down, but we put ourselves in boxes. So get rid of the box.
1000%. And you know, it's so crazy because I mean, and I'm going to age myself, but I'm not one of those women that cares about people knowing how old I am. But when I got out of college, it was like, you went to college, then you got a job and that was your job.
Yep.
It wasn't like, oh, I work here and I do this and I have a podcast and I do this. It was, no, I work here.
Yeah. And I don't think the world was really structured for it at the time because now we have 1.5 million tools for running a side hustle or doing something you really love. And it's more open, people are more receptive to that.
Mm-hmm. And I think that even some companies are almost encouraging of it. They actively want you to have a side hustle. They want you to be creative and be, just living your own life, not just working for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you get to show up more fully who you are at work if you're more fulfilled with the things that light you up. So,
No, it's so true. I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand with all the personal branding stuff that we're seeing every day and the real push for CEOs to, be the voice of their company and not have it be on a company page and all of that.
Yeah, thought leaders. It's the world wants to hear what CEOs really think and the stories behind a company. And it's smart for companies to do that because then they jump off the page. They're not just a product or service. They're a whole identity that people can interact with.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole influencer marketing, right? I mean, if you see even with the evolution of TikTok Shop over the last year, people are buying from people. They're not necessarily buying from brands.
Mm-hmm.
It's I saw this girl who I really connect with and I think I love her videos. And so she said that these protein bars are great. So I'm going to try these protein bars,
Yeah. And the algorithms have gotten so good. When I get served an ad for something that is made for me, oh, I love it. I love nothing more than purchasing that thing. And then when I do love it IRL and it lands on my doorstep, I'm like, this is so cool. And this feels a lot better than me going to a physical mall.
Yeah.
And window shopping.
Oh my God, a mall. Who goes to the mall?
They're archaic now. Yeah.
They are. And it is kind of sad because sometimes, nothing really beat a good mall trip.
True. It was fun. I would get hot dog on a stick or cheese on a stick, which is a block of fried cheese.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm dairy free, so that definitely was not the
move. You're as I've gotten older, the hot dog or the cheese on a stick is no longer working with my physical body.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know it is. I used to get at the mall, I would get a Mrs. Fields cookie.
Oh my God. Those were so good. Yeah.
So good. A Mrs. Fields chocolate chip cookie or an M&M one because, the M&M ones could really, really do something good to you. Mm-hmm. And then in the mall that was the closest one to where I grew up, we had a sweet factory where you could go in and build your own bag of candy.
And they were clear bags with blue stripes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I loved that place.
Yeah. I loved going there and you get your little chocolate gummy bears and your peach gummies and
the nostalgia right now is just
skyrocketing. Right? It's so funny too because you think back at how much things have changed just even with like how different food is made, right? I mean, not to get into like a whole like, very trending topic of conversation going on in the world right now, but I mean, it is true that like our food has changed. Like a bean burrito from Taco Bell that was in 1995, it does not taste the same as a bean burrito from Taco Bell today. And it's funny because like I haven't eaten a bean burrito from Taco Bell in probably 20 years, but I can still like have these memories and I almost taste what it tasted like in high school. And it was like, oh, it was so good.
I love that you're mentioning T-Bell too, of all things, because T-Bell has changed a lot since we were there. Yeah,
it has.
Well,
oh, there was this one item that was my absolute favorite. I think it was called like an enchilada or something. It was like meat and red sauce and cheese. It was delicious. I literally live for food. I'm one of those people that thinks about food 24/7. I should be 9 million pounds because like if you gained weight by thinking about food, I wouldn't be able to fit through any door. Truly. It's like the number one trending topic in my brain.
That's so funny. I feel like, I don't know, I'm not a huge foodie. Sometimes I will forget to eat lunch. I can be a workaholic. That's the thing I just could do all day. Like if I had more hours in every day, I would just work more because I love it. It's so fun to me.
Well, no, I think that's great. But like you don't get so hungry that you can't think.
Occasionally. And then I'm like, oh, I need to go get food. Okay. But I'm not like always searching for a food thing. Or if there are like food trends, I'm typically not on top of those.
Oh yeah, my algorithm definitely knows me well enough to know that it needs to serve me those trends.
I get served trends around like women's style fashion, like clothing is a big one, jewelry, home things like interior design stuff. I think I consume so much interior design stuff that I've now started to get ads to become an interior designer, which is not something I want to do, but it's just so interesting how everyone gets served different things, but we love it. Like totally we like the content usually.
Absolutely. But it is so wild when you think about that and how there are some things that certain people just do not see, period. Mm-hmm. And it's something that like, maybe it's a topic that you are seeing so much that you're like literally an expert on it. And then you mention something and someone's like, I don't even have any idea. I've never even heard of that. And you're like, how can you not? Like, I see this all day, every day.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as a coach in the coaching space, I think that resonates because I see 1.5 million coaches on Instagram and LinkedIn who are all quote experts in something. And then I have certain friends who have no idea about this world. And it's really fascinating. There's like the corporate academic side of coaching that I come from. And then there's like the online coaching space, which is wild. It's the Wild West.
Yeah. Well, and then there's coaches for coaches, and then there's coaches for different topics. And then there's coaches for everything. And I mean, I feel like that's kind of, you can get overwhelmed with some of this stuff and wondering like, what should I trust? Who should I trust? Like, where should I invest my dollars? What aligns best with me, all of those things. I mean, kind of like we were talking about before we hit record. I mean, and then the people that market themselves to you, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm getting 75 emails a day on this one topic.
Yeah, you Google coach and then all of a sudden, a million different marketing courses and coaching things. Mm-hmm. It's wild. I think for people who are looking for someone, it's like know what you're looking for first before you even Google the word coach. Be very, very specific and know the background that you're looking for. Make sure the coach is certified or is a true expert, has worked in that space for over a decade. Like those are the things to look for. I think people just need to look for more credibility these days.
Yeah, I think that making sure you're seeing someone's results is super important so they can actually like show you like, here is somebody I helped, here's where they were, here's where they are now.
Yep.
I think that's super, super important because there's so many people out there that you can easily, go and work with someone and then realize that it's just like a copy paste. It isn't really tailored to like what it is that you need.
Right. And test people out before you sign up for a 5-figure coaching investment. I see some people do that and I'm like, what were you thinking? No. Make
Yeah.
sure there's that trust and rapport there.
So, okay. So speaking of coaching, obviously, let's like jump into your story a little bit. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, good old suburbs, inland San Diego. And I went to school in San Francisco and I studied marketing. Originally started with creative writing. And then I was like, I feel like a businesswoman and I want to make money and I don't want to do a bunch of odd jobs and be a novelist right away. So,
Oh my God, I love that. I love that you like had that thought. Like, I feel like a businesswoman. That's cool. I've never heard
yeah.
anybody say that.
Yeah. And I love business. I really enjoy seeing what people feel passionate about and then seeing them become successful at that and grow ecosystems and communities and all that good stuff. So I then worked in marketing. At 19, I had like a massive internship at TBWA. It's a very well-known advertising agency. They did Apple's campaign in the 80s. Think different. And I was 19 there. That was like my first real marketing gig as an intern. And I was on a couple of huge accounts, Jameson Whiskey, Absolute Vodka. As someone under 21, I was absolutely thrilled.
I bet, right? And were you like, I can't pour it, but I can help market it?
Yeah, but I can work on their TV commercials.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, right? That's so cool.
Yeah. And then I spent the next 13 years in marketing, working for huge companies, small companies, advising. I built 4 companies of my own over time. And on the side of all of that, I was really into energetics and yoga, meditation. I became a Reiki energy healer. I 10x'd my energy healing practice so much so that I was like, wait, I don't want to be a full-time energy healer. I need to actually like close this down. I was just doing it for fun. But that showed me that my marketing knowledge could actually help people grow businesses that weren't in technology or consumer packaged goods. And at my last marketing role, I remember I was just feeling like, oh, I don't want to like do marketing decks for people anymore. I want something that feels more fulfilling. I don't want to be a CMO at 50 for a massive company. That feels like hell for me. So what I did is in my full-time role at this agency, they were like, we want you to start coaching the founders because they need help. And you might need to play business therapist for them because there's a lot on their shoulders. Cool. I was more than happy to do that. Completely fell in love with it. Decided this is what I want to do. My marketing knowledge does play a role in how I advise and work with people, but the coaching piece, I just totally lit up around. And it involved this energetics piece too, because I could be intuitive in coaching sessions. So I got certified through Berkeley Executive Coaching Institute, became a coach, started a podcast, grew my coaching business, applied a lot of the marketing theories and things that I've done over time. And, like that passion we were just talking about,
Yeah.
I get to help people build businesses and enjoy their lives and be successful at it. And I love that.
Yeah, that sounds so much fun. And I can tell, like, I can feel your energy as you're talking about it, that it like just is so like it's like your life's purpose.
It is. Yeah. And I really struggled with the whole concept of a life purpose. I was like, I don't know. Do we really have one? What if we have multiple? How are you supposed to discover that? In my 20s, late 20s, I was just like, I don't know if I believe in that. But over time, through little things, I started to see patterns. And then I think following those patterns and breadcrumbs then led me to today. And yeah, I'm really happy with what I do. So
that's great. And I think that's so, it's funny because it's like one of those things where you're trying to figure things out as we go, right? And I mean, I always remember being a little kid and, there are some kids that are from like 5 years old. They're like, I want to be an astronaut or, I want to be a race car driver or I want to be a doctor or a lawyer. And then you see them and they actually go off and do that. And you're like, damn, you wanted to do that since you were like 8. Like, that's amazing. Good job. And I was never that kid. I always just wanted to be happy. Which, I mean, that is like an interesting thing. I also think for a little kid to kind of acknowledge that like there was people that were unhappy and people that were happy and, actively recognizing that at a young age and wanting the latter, But it is neat to see how that evolution happens with the majority of us. Cause, most people, just because they're 8 and they say they want to be a doctor, don't necessarily turn out to be that doctor.
Oh, yeah. No, I wanted to be an ice cream truck driver at one point.
Awesome. I mean, all the ice
Obviously,
cream you could, yeah, why would you not, right?
easy.
Free ice cream.
Again, now dairy free. So lots of
Yeah.
things
Oh,
have
yeah.
changed. But I wanted to be a
Right.
veterinarian. I
Aw.
I thought about writing, and I do think there's a chapter of my life in the
Mhm.
future where I write books. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting to see that unfold. And I love that joy was something that you focused on. You're like, I want to
Mhm.
feel happy. I want to feel joy. And I
Yeah.
mean, you exude joy. You're so bright.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. I mean, I think that I am one of those people that is like always glass half full. Um, and I'm okay with that, like I even sometimes say like I'm like, "Oh, I wonder if this is coming across as like annoying," because I do always try to find like the good in something. I mean, even when I'm at like my lowest of low, I'll be like, "Well, there's something I'm going to learn from this." But I just think it's so much easier to focus on, okay, what's the good versus, you know,
Yeah.
ruminating in the bad. Well, so tell me more about like the impact that you feel like you're giving as you're on this coaching, path and working with these different people. Like how do you figure out the best way to work with each person that you work with?
Okay. Impact question and how to work with each one. So I'll start with the impact. And I think it's best shown through like what I've heard from people after we work together. I just worked with someone for about 6 months, and she was like, Sam, I feel so much more confident being fully me. I've seen ripple effects. Like my business has seen an uptick. I've expanded. I've brought team members on thanks to you. I actually found great people. It feels like everything's in flow. She came back to this confidence piece, and she was like, there's just nothing better than having a strong woman in your corner. And that sentence just really landed with me. I remember I cried like a baby after. I was like, it was so sweet. And I mean, that's my intention, and that's the impact I hope to create for people is they feel like they can really open up to someone, catch their breath, feel really anchored in the present, see what's going on, what are the real challenges, move through those and get to the other side where they feel like things are in flow. And there is a sense of joy, and they can see that upward trajectory, happening. And it does look different with every person, because some people want to focus more on, how to grow the business. Some people want a space to talk freely and have a thought partner. Some people want to kind of play with modalities like guided meditation and visualizations together, where we uncover their answers. So it's very, very different depending on the person and how they grow. So I think early on when I work with people, it's figuring out what works for this person, like which modalities should we play with to get them to move forward and really just start to find coherence throughout their
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm. So at what phase of business are most people coming to work with you at?
Good question. Most have found some success already. So
Mm-hmm.
they have some traction. If they're a solopreneur type, they're typically making over 10K a month or around that, or they're just there. Most people feel like they're on the edge of growth, but for some reason, there's something holding them back. And that's what we tackle together. But I also work with CEOs of like 8, 9 figure companies who want the same support, but it's just a different context. And that's where my background comes in, because I've worked with 9 figure startups. I've worked, right along the side of CEOs of huge companies, high growth companies like that. So it's a huge range, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I mean, and what a cool path to be able to see, like, have this inside look into all these different types of businesses, right?
Oh my God. It's awesome. It's like sometimes I feel like a librarian. Like I get to check out all the books all the time, and I don't have any limits. And I get to, yeah, see the insides of how all these different companies work, what's really challenging them, and then what does a day in the life look like of most of these
Yeah.
business owners.
How do you feel that that has like impacted your view on like not only the world, but on like being like a day-to-day consumer of different products and businesses?
Great question. I think what I see most is that people don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
That's the common thread. It keeps coming up over and
So
over.
crazy.
Isn't that wild?
It is. But I mean, I totally get it. I totally get it. But it's also like, and I think it's such an important conversation to have because I think that it is so easy for us as human beings to put people on pedestals and think like, oh, like this person's better than me, or oh, they've got it all figured out, or oh, they're already making all this money, or oh, that experience got them to the point where they are. But it's like everybody is still figuring everything out.
Oh, yeah. I've worked with CEOs of 9, 10-figure companies who from the outside are thought leaders and are so successful, maybe even dating celebrities. And they're so scared and they still don't see themselves like everyone else does. And, I've worked with early business owners who, same thing. It's like those two people from the outside might look totally different, but when you sit them down in a room together, they're going through the exact same thing. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's a future book I write.
No, I mean, it should be. I mean, I mean, I'm sure because you're you and you're like very organized and you have to be like organized to do what you do. But I mean, you have so many stories that you probably don't even realize that you have in your notes from all of these coaching sessions that at some point when you can like take a pause or take a sabbatical and go sit on a beach for a month somewhere, it's like threading that needle through some of those, you would write an incredible book.
Nikki.
Yes, I would be
I'm so
the
excited
first
for
one to
this.
like, let me be your editor. Let me be your first copy reader and give you feedback.
Actually, I will hold you to that.
Yes.
I'm going to do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, you could probably come up with like multiple books if you just pick themes and, put them together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's just one. I see so many other things, especially with women, all the women I work with. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah. There are just so many similar kind of challenges that women have as business owners, not thinking they're good enough, having imposter syndrome, embracing the courage to show up fully as you are with all your different parts. I think that's why podcasting, like you and I, is so fun because we get to pull those parts out of us. And not just to talk about ourselves, but to encourage other people to do that, doing that in service
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
others. So
Yeah. Well, and it's like being a storyteller. I mean, it's so funny because I remember when I was younger, like listening to the radio and thinking like, oh, being a radio, like not DJ, because like I wouldn't necessarily want to be like picking the songs. Well, I mean, yeah, actually I would want to be picking the songs. Like we're talking like old school DJ where it's like, we're going to play these songs this hour. I would love to, that's like making a playlist, right? That would be so much fun. But I've always thought like there were some, hosts, radio show hosts, and I'm like, oh man, they're so much fun to listen to. And I always thought, oh, that would be fun. But obviously it was never anything that I pursued. But then when podcasting, just came along and I was like, oh, it would be so fun to have a podcast. And then I had the idea for this show and now it's evolved. And I'm like, it's so weird sometimes. I'm like, huh? Like I'm doing this and I don't know. It's fun, but it's so fun and I love it. I love, yeah.
And it shows. It's one of those breadcrumbs that you noticed and then turned into this thing when this new thing became available.
Yeah. Well, and it's so crazy too. So we were talking about before we hit record, we were talking about like constantly like improving and like making changes and, trying to keep up with all of the latest trends and making sure your show's getting noticed and all that. Right. So one of my girlfriends is like much more skilled at social media than I am. And she was looking at my podcast page recently and she was like, hey, she's like, why don't you go in and like update all the thumbnails on these videos? She's like, because all these videos that you're putting out are great. She's like, but if I just come to your page, she's like, I don't know what any of them are about. And I was like, oh my God. And like, thank God Instagram like made it so you can easily go in and update your thumbnail. So I went back through and I did that. And I've noticed my views like ticking up. So I'm like, ooh, my videos are obviously getting out there, so that's fun. But then it also like, as I was doing that, I can't remember what every single clip is about. So I had to listen to them back. And that was a really cool exercise because it made me acknowledge like how far I've come in doing this. And I'm like, oh,
That's
okay.
really cool. And did you
Yeah.
feel, it sounds like you felt like really proud of this
I
work and all the
was
time.
I was definitely like, oh, your skills with this have gotten better. Like you can like my tone of voice sounded more confident. And I mean, even thinking back to like some prior episodes, I'm like, ooh, what was that?
I feel that.
Right. And now you're like, oh, okay, like I'm better at this. I'm better at this.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I wish we could do that with life, like
Mm,
rewind a couple chapters and
yeah.
almost watch ourselves on a TV. And
Oh my God.
I think most people would be really proud of all the things they've done because they don't realize until they
Hmm.
take a moment to really think about it.
Yeah. I often think about that kind of what you just said, but from the lens of, when you're having a conversation with somebody and maybe they're struggling with something and you you respond to them in whatever way you do, and then you kind of carry on about your day. And then maybe like a month or 2 months or a year or more, even they'll come and say something to you like, hey, what you said to me that day like really resonated, or it really like helped me, with what I was struggling with. And it's so interesting because in that moment you were just being you, and you were just responding as you, and then you probably went about your day like, okay, well, cool, see you later, but it like so profoundly impacted them. I think that is something that's super neat about the human experience, is that somebody can just say something casually by just being who they are, and it can just deeply alter like the trajectory of your life.
Completely. It can be a few words, a sentence. I remember I was following this girl, and for some reason, her captions always spoke to me. It was like they were speaking to me directly. And that's what honestly gave me the courage to jump from my full time role into full time coaching, building a business for myself. Um, yeah, I think it's so incredible. And I think it also points to the energetics piece of when you're in alignment and you can when you hear those words, because some people will hear them but not actually hear them. When you notice them truly and can integrate them into your life, you're in the flow, right? You're trusting things, you're noticing the signs. And I think that's one of the most beautiful feelings we can have as humans.
Yeah. I mean, what I think is so neat, I mean, is having people in your life who truly see you for who you are. And then when you decide to make a change, or when you decide to stand up for yourself in a certain way, or when you decide to just do something, and then your friend's like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you, or I'm so glad you did that. It's like, oh, okay, well, thank you. And then it's like, it gives you that extra like confidence boost,
Mhm.
when,
Absolutely.
or if someone's like, oh my gosh, like you have handled the situation with so much grace, but I'm so glad that you finally were like, okay, I'm like now done here.
Yes, exactly. I recently had this come up and it was really moving. I did a new brand shoot, which, I needed new photos for all, my website, podcast, all that good stuff. And it was really expansive. And I felt like this was a sign of a new chapter for my business. I really felt like I was much more comfortable in front of the camera, which, mirrors how much more comfortable I am on my podcast, being visible, social media, all this stuff that was very new to me as a business owner and human. And the day after the shoot, I felt like I was crumbling. like I went on a walk with my dog and I just felt this anxiety and self-doubt. And it's this funny thing that happens. I researched it later. It's like when we have a big moment of growth, a breakthrough, it can feel incredible. But then there's this tendency because of our neural pathways that kind of like brings us back, wants to bring us back to the before state so we can contract. And it's your body trying to find like homeostasis. But really it's a challenge for us to be like, no, 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 no. Let's come back to this new state, this new chapter, this expansion. So I realized what was happening on this walk with my dog. And I was like, okay, this is just the natural tendency of my body. I breathed through it. I was like, okay, some stuff is just coming up and wants to be released, and probably stuff that was holding me back before. So I go home and I just kind of feel it. Sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but I'd ground myself, do my practices. And then I get this text message from my friend, one of my best friends. And she had listened to a recent podcast episode of mine and was like, oh my God, I loved it. So funny, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, I kind of like accept that. And then she sends me this text being like, by the way, I just need to share, I'm so proud of you. I know that like, it's so cool to see you like continue to try new things and expand. And I just broke down crying more.
Oh my God, I'm like about to cry too. That's like amazing. That's so sweet.
It was so sweet. It was totally the sign I needed to be like, no, trust yourself, keep going. And she literally texted me a follow-up, keep going. And I was just like, okay, let's keep going. So sometimes you do need those words from people to recognize what's happening.
No, it is. It's so true. It's so true. And I just like, I love that you have a friend that even wanted to like share those things with you. Cause I think sometimes, you know, being on this journey of doing things on your own, right? Working for yourself, doing a podcast and all the things that all of that entails, it's a lot of alone work, you know, it's doing things by yourself. It's doing things in the quiet. And I think that that's something that so many people don't realize unless they're actively doing it. It's like, yes, you and I are recording this podcast right now, and obviously we're doing this together. But then when it's done, it's like, okay, I'm going to be doing like the preparation. I'm going to make sure that like, you know, my editing team like gets it the way that they want it. But then it's like, I'm going to be putting the social media out into the world. I'm going to be posting it on LinkedIn, you know, getting it on like the websites and doing all those things. And you have to think about all of that. And so I think it's like, once I started doing it all, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's like so much just me doing work here alone by myself. But then you get into the habit of it and you're like, okay, like this is normal now. But every once in a while, when you do get someone who reaches out and says like, hey, I really love what you're doing, you're like, oh shit, that felt so good. Thank you for sharing, you know?
Yes. So if you're listening, comment on this, like this thing, give Nikki 5 stars because it will make her day.
It really does. It really does. Oh my gosh. It's so true. I know I always end up all the shows. I'm like, please like and comment and subscribe and share and all the things that matters. It really does.
Yeah. We see every single one of them and we celebrate them. Sometimes I'll tell my husband and it's probably nerdy of me, but I'm like, oh my God, someone else reviewed. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's so funny. And I'm so like, I love this. Like, it's so funny. You know, there's been so much in the media about TikTok and is it going to be here? Is it not? Is it this? Is it that? Is it good for us? Is it not good for us? All the things, right? What I love about TikTok is that anybody can go viral, right? Like you can, I mean, I went viral a few months, maybe a month or so ago, and it was awful. Like I did not enjoy it. I did not enjoy it. And actually it was funny. I actually didn't care because I truly don't care. Like, you know, people like have made some comments about me and I was just like, this is hilarious. Like, thank you for that. But it just really ended up on the wrong side of TikTok. And I understand a lot of the people's comments were coming straight out of frustration. However, it wasn't because of something I had said. It was more like, I don't know. Anyway, it is what it is. But I love that anybody can go viral. But what I also love these days is that there's been this big rally around like the smaller creator community. And I've seen a few videos lately where, you know, girls have got like 100 followers and they're like, you know, get a little donut with a candle in it. And they're like, hey, I'm stoked that I have 100 followers. And I'm like, good for you, you know, because you see some of these big creators when they get to the 1 million and they have the balloon and all things, which I think is equally as cool because those people have put in so much work, made so many videos, done so much stuff. But I love that these little people, because if you think, you know, this one girl that I took a LinkedIn course from, she gave us the best advice one day. And she was like, if you're posting on any platform and you're like worried about your views, she was like, Google image search, what does like 100 people? And then she's like, and then Google 500 people and Google 1,000 people. And she's like, so if your videos or your posts are getting that many, like that still is like 100 people is still a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know? Imagine 100 people in a room. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
More people than you could talk to in one night.
Right. And it's like, and in some cases, like more people than you actually would want to talk to. You know?
Yeah. I'm a max 5 kind of girl.
Oh my gosh. No, I have a rule where like, I will not go to a group dinner that's more than 5 people. Like won't do it.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. I get quiet in groups of more than 5, because also I'm like, I don't want to project my voice to reach a whole group of 6 or 10 or 15. If I have a microphone on stage, different story. Love that.
Yeah.
But intimate group dinner, I want it to be intimate. I want to actually get to know people and have a conversation.
Yeah. Totally. So yeah, I always try to remind myself too, if like I see a video or something and I'm like I had a reel the other day get like 4,000 views. I'm like, that's a lot of views. I'll take 4,000. Let's go.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I spent so much time on putting together this TikTok, and then I posted on Instagram this thing about Barbie versus Wicked marketing. And I analyzed them both. And it was a way of me talking about something that I thought was pretty fun, because it was fun for me to look up. And I hoped that it translated for people. And it got like less than 200 views on Instagram and didn't really blow up on TikTok. But I got 2 people or 3 people that messaged me about it, being like, hey, that was really awesome. Like, holy shit, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll take that. I will take 3 genuine messages over something blowing up, and then also getting a ton of trolls.
Right? 100%. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, so like, just so like, if anyone's listening, they're like, okay, you totally just like teased that video. Basically, I had seen somebody post something about the Palisades fire that happened at the beginning of January. And I felt like it was very flippant, because the comment was, there's real people that lost their homes too. The rich people will be fine. And I just thought that was so awful to say, because just because somebody's financial situation might be better than somebody else's doesn't mean that it's any less devastating that they lost their home and all of their things, and that they're going to have to rebuild. Like that I just thought it was so rude. So anyway, that was basically the premise of the video that I made. Well, it ended up on North Carolina TikTok. And all of those people were then like, well, what about the people who are still waiting for, like aid from the hurricane and everything? And I was like, well, that still is awful too. But like, just because speaking out on one thing doesn't negate the way you feel about something else. Like, I just was simply making a comment because like this hit really close to home, because like I used to live down there and I have friends who were directly impacted. Like, I mean, like I wasn't justifying myself to all these people, but like it was fascinating to see where the video landed. And I was like, wow. Okay. And like, it was funny because I was with my friend in England, and like every hour we would look and be like, oh my God, it's up to like, it was like at 1,000. I was like, damn, that's crazy. And then I was like, by the end of the next day, I was like, oh dude, it's up to like 28,000 views. I'm all, this is insane.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was wild.
It's so interesting, the move towards more like post viral things and account viral things. I think it's a good move, because I think it is easier for discoverability, new voices, opinions. I think we're moving into an era that just looks completely different for how we engage with media and get the news.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I personally like love the rise of independent journalism. I like reading about things from different people's perspectives. I like the way different people present what like their case, or can like, almost have a debate without having a debate, where it's like you can stitch somebody's video and like someone will say something and it's like, well, yeah, but then this is why, and I think that's really enjoyable. And it's a good way to learn, but you also have to remember that like we still have responsibilities, I think, to be our own judge, and also, like not just believe every single thing that somebody says just because of their role within whatever their role is, whether it's media or, podcast or government or whatever. It's like, okay, like maybe read a book. I don't know,
Yes, absolutely. It reminds me, one thing I'm also pretty passionate about is like skin health. I used to have really, really bad skin. So for over a decade, I've like worked with many different estheticians and gotten really into skincare. And recently there's been a beef tallow trend of cooking with beef tallow. And I like cooking with beef tallow. Great flavor. But some people have been incorporating that into skincare, and it clogs your pores just straight up. It's not good for your skin. And there are just these things on TikTok that are like, yeah, I'm using beef tallow for my skin. And I was with my esthetician friend and she was like, oh my God, don't get me started on that. Like, do not do that, people. Do not use beef tallow on your face. And I thought it was funny.
Well, and I think too, it's like everybody's skin is different. Like I learned something about like even all of our, I mean, obviously you can look at all of our hair and like you can tell that like, you know, some people have naturally curly hair, some people have thick hair, some people have like naturally pinned straight hair. Like I have a friend from high school and I have always been so envious of her because she can literally get out of the shower, brush her wet hair and it will dry pin straight and it looks so cute. And I'm always like, that is not fair. Like, it is not fair that you could, like, if I did that, I would be like Frizz City, like kinks all these different places.
Horizontal.
Just not attractive. And so, but I learned something about like, I think it's called viscosity of your hair.
Interesting.
And so basically you can take a strand of hair and just like put it in a cup of water. And if it sinks to the bottom, it has like high viscosity. And if it floats on the top, it has like really low viscosity. So if you're using like oils to like help your hair grow or to keep it healthy, depending on your hair type, some oils won't like absorb because your hair is like not as porous. So like you have to use like a lighter type of oil, but like a heavier oil would really just not do anything except like make your hair like greasy and then probably be tough to wash out.
It makes a lot of sense.
So, I mean, I feel like our skin is like a similar organ where, you know, some people have bigger pores than others. Some people's skin is firmer than other, you know, and then as we age and all the things. So it's like, it can't be like a one size fits all.
No, I have a friend who studied this for years and then she created a skin website and it recommends different products for different types of skin because exactly what you said, different types of skin absorb things in much different ways. So certain oils like coconut oil or almond oil might be good for one type, but absolutely disastrous for another. So you have to know what works for you and do some research.
Well, yeah, it's like, and you know, so I watch some of these beauty influencers on TikTok do their makeup and I'm just like, wow. And then I've tried some of the things they do and I just look like a grease ball.
And I look like a zebra. I don't understand the whole contour situation. I've tried and failed.
Zebra. I love it. That's amazing. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, well, like, I don't get it. Like I asked these teenagers one time that were at a party. There were some of my friends' kids and I was like, hey, I'm like, do you guys use setting powder? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I feel like it makes me look like cakey and greasier than if I just don't use it. Yeah. And they were like giving me like different tricks to try out and see if it would like work better. And I'm like, I love these kids these days. They can teach you anything.
I love that. I look like Casper when I use setting powder for some reason, but I'm probably using it in the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too. I laugh because I could sit and watch people do their makeup for like an hour. I find it so enjoyable. I'm like, ooh, that really is a great color blush. Like, wow, I love that bronzer. Am I ever buying any of these things? Absolutely not. Do I do my makeup almost exactly the same every time I do it? Pretty much. But I'm like mesmerized by it. I'm like, damn girl, you look great. Will I ever do that? No.
I know. I love certain looks like the pinky blush, like that situation, but I can't do it. I get in a pattern and I do my makeup very similar to how I did it 10 years ago. And with small
thankfully don't. I thankfully don't because there was a lot of eyeliner in years past, and I'm glad that I moved on from that.
Yeah, a little Avril Lavigne punk moment.
Oh yeah,
eyeliner realm.
Yeah, there was a time where I thought it was a good idea to do like a dark navy eyeliner with like a white eyeliner right on top of it.
Ooh, fun!
So kind of like a little stripe situation. Maybe I was influenced by the old Sweet Factory bag, you know, to bring it back to the top of the conversation. Maybe that's what it was. I don't know. But it was like, I look back and I'm like, why did I do that?
It's giving Sweet Factory. Yeah, that's so funny.
You know? But that was also a period of time where I would get highlights and it would be like, my hair is naturally brown. So it would be blonde. And then I did a red. So it was like, I didn't just do the 2-stripe. It was a 3-stripe and the red, I had no business with that color red in my hair. So,
I mean, I was a sucker for anything that looked good on the OC. I mean, good is relative, but I had Marissa bangs. So like a basically chunk of hair that then became bangs and just chopped it like right at the eyebrow. Did not look good. but
Yeah.
I embraced those for a year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love that for you. And you have to show me a photo sometime.
I'll find one after this.
Please do. Please do. Oh my gosh. Well, so what would you say is like the best piece of advice that you kind of has changed your perspective on the way you do business these days?
Ooh, that's a good one. There's so many. The one coming up right now is like get help as a business owner. You can't do everything. You shouldn't do everything. Stay kind of in what is your expertise. And then I say that because the moment that I started to hire people and get contractors on board, I started to see things pick up momentum and I felt so much happier because I had space to do what I loved and step into my role as a business owner in a way that I kind of always envisioned and dreamed of. So, yeah, get help and be okay with that. Like, be okay with feedback if you haven't been doing things right. If your podcast titles have been absolute crap, like, you can always change things and grow. It's a learning journey. So, yeah, get help.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I think that's so huge. And, I mean, I was listening to somebody else talking about, and I've given this advice before to founders too. I'm like, if your time is worth $500 an hour, why are you doing $20 an hour tasks? And it's so important. And it's something that I've been obviously thinking about myself as of now too, that I'm like pretty clear on the directions that I'm going. And I'm like, okay, what things can I outsource so my time is freed up to really move the needle?
Mhm.
And yeah,
Yeah,
great
because
advice.
you can't do it alone. And I think as humans, we're meant to be in a tribe. That's how we work best. That's how we survive
Yeah.
and grow and evolve. And the same thing applies to business. And it's just it's finding your tribe of people.
Yeah.
And that allows you to move and groove and really enjoy what you do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I loved learning more about you and what you do. That was super fun. Thank you for sharing and
Of
chatting with
course.
me. I knew it was going to feel like a FaceTime call, and it did.
I loved it. We had so many little tangents in this.
I
So.
know. It's so much more fun that way. I feel like it's funny because, like, sometimes people are like, so are you going to send questions beforehand? I'm like, no. I'm not. I'm like, there's a couple on my intake form if I remember to send that to you. I'm like, but if I don't, like, I'd love to just like chat. I want to learn about you. Like, share, tell me all the things.
Yeah.
It makes
No,
it
I
so much
love
more
it.
fun.
Yeah. Thank you for having me
Awesome.
on.
Yeah, for sure. Tell everybody how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So my website is growwithsam.com. You can find that in the show notes. I'll send that to you, Nikki. On Instagram, you can find me at growwith_Sam, and you can find out about my podcast at both those links.
Awesome. And you have a great website. I'm like, I have your website bookmarked because I love it so much.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a source of inspiration. So check her out, everybody. Well, thank you again so much for being here. And thanks everybody for listening. And as always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, rate, all the things. And we will see you next week. Bye.